Hey, watch this episode on YouTube.
Two dudes watch cartoons. Two dudes watch cartoons. Two dudes watch cartoons. Two dudes watch cartoons. Yeah.
Welcome back to Two Dudes Watch Cartoons, the podcast where two dudes, that is us, watch cartoons. My name is Evan.
And my name is Alex. And boy, do we have an exciting adventure for you today. But before we get to that, we are joined by third dude, Chaz Cardigan, returning to the podcast. Chaz, welcome back. How are you?
I am happy to be the third dude. What's up, guys?
Good.
It's so
Glad
good
you're
to have
here.
you back on. I mean, last time we had you on, we watched Black Cauldron, a movie with a lot of baggage and a lot of lore. And this is maybe the other end, like the other bookend of that lore, which I'm very excited to dig into. But today we are covering 2002. Is that the year?
Yep.
Yeah.
2002's Treasure Planet, a 2D Disney animated film.
Let's go.
Now, Chaz, tell me a little bit about your attachment to this film, what it means to you, why you wanted to cover it.
You picked this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, so before my attachment to it, this sort of came naturally from the Black Cauldron episode because the directors of this movie, Musker and Clemens, briefly work on the Black Cauldron. And it was just sort of weird to see their names in the mix when we were doing like production research for that movie. And I knew a little bit about the production history of this movie. It's not as troubled as Black Cauldron, but it sort of just came naturally to say like, oh, it'd be cool one day to get around and talk about Treasure Planet because it's got that sort of spiritual through line to it, which I'm happy to get to. This is the Disney movie I've seen the most.
Wow. Okay.
I saw this at the perfect age and just the right time in my life. I would have been in second grade when this came out in 2002. And I'm a 7-year-old boy watching this thing. This was incredible to me. And Disney, I'll talk about it later, I guess. They weren't super happy with the marketing for it. But personally, the marketing hit me exactly as the target demographic of like, do you want 18th century ships in space? And
It's great. It's so good.
Awesome. It's like the most, they were really hungry for a boy movie and they found it. This is the most boy of any of their movies. Women don't speak a lot in this movie, unfortunately, and the one that does is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Agreed.
This movie very much reminds me of, I had like this toy castle and this toy pirate ship, and I would have the pirate ship pull up on the castle. This movie reminds me of me playing with all those little pirates and cowboys and knights. Like, this movie was just so sci-fi, but also adventure movie, action-packed. Like, there's like some Indiana Jones like feel in there. I didn't appreciate this movie as much as I feel like I should have as a kid. This was a movie in my household that when the car DVD player became popularized in America, this was one of our movies in rotation that we would watch maybe like on a long car ride somewhere. So that's my experience with this movie.
Yeah, I think I saw this one in theaters. This would make for a good in-flight, transit
exactly.
entertainment. I think I saw it in theaters. I believe I only saw it the one time. But I remember being captivated by the Solar Surfer thing. I don't. Did they have like a flash game of that? I feel like I remember navigating like one of those. You know, maybe it was a side scroll kind of thing. Yeah. But it just strikes me as it was a game.
Maybe they did. They had a PC game for this that I remember playing, set after the events of the movie, and it was a naval strategy game. Again, I don't think anyone knew how to market this thing to kids, but it was a game where essentially you're like playing Risk with like Imperial with like Imperial ships and like shooting ships and trying to get loot from each other, and it's all real time. So if you're a light year away from each other, I remember I would sit at the PC like pressing the arrow button for like 40 minutes trying to get my ships over there.
It's so clear, though, to me that it's a pirate movie. Like, yeah, it's in space, but this is through and through like a story of a crew and treasure.
Yep.
It's a pirate story.
Yeah.
Well,
and,
and
the source
actually-
material
Yeah.
is
Yes, please
Treasure
go ahead.
Island, which, as I'm watching this movie and reading up about it, it dawned on me, like, I'm not actually familiar with Treasure Island. I don't believe I've ever read it. Like, I'm familiar with the general premise, but
I was going to ask that. I was going to
Yeah.
ask if you guys had either read Treasure Island or seen any of the other movies.
No, have you?
Muppet Treasure Island.
Okay,
That's
there
what
you
I
go.
shit. You beat me to it. I've seen Muppet Treasure Island. So there's actually a long series of Treasure Island installments. The first book, by Robert Louis. It's a science fiction book. Robert Louis Stevenson. Yeah. Treasure Island came out in 1883. Now, this brings up something that I think is so interesting. Is that's Disney's go-to move, taking an older story and being like ours now, like Snow
Yeah.
White, like all these like fairy tale stories that they have monopolized. Like those were stories before Disney came around. They just put them like to print first.
Yeah, taking a 19th century novel, is that where they've gone wrong in recent years? Is that the reason why they're like,
Well, they're taking
More
different
hit or
material.
miss.
They're now doing
Sure.
Marvel and Star Wars. Think about it. It's all
That's true.
Disney does.
but I mean,
It's
like, which?
all Disney has done since the beginning of time is take other stories and they're like, well, here's what got me thinking about this is the third Disney adaptation of Treasure Planet, one being Muppet Treasure Planet. And it's also the third adaptation of Treasure Planet in space.
Yep.
This wasn't even like a fully original idea from Disney. They saw someone else do it. They're like, we're going to do it too.
There is something to that. Walt's like idea with the original Disney stuff is, we have all of these shared stories in the European canon that we can like take a few hundred years of them and we can put our stamp on them. And there's German stories and there's French stories and whatever. And it is such a bummer that you've got actually a whole fucking planet of world mythology that you could poke to. You don't have to make Wish. You don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, but like, and this is like the strength of
That's true,
Moana.
yeah.
The strength of Moana, right, is that it's like,
You don't need to. Wish was not needed. I agree.
no, but like Moana's drawing on a real mythology, and there's something like really powerful in that. And it's a great movie. I mean, it's an original
And it
story.
really resonates. Yeah,
Yeah.
but it really resonates with people.
Yeah, I don't think that like they should just do nothing with it because none of those stories are identical to like the Grimm's version or the Hans Christian Andersen version.
Okay, you convinced me that maybe they're not stealing as much as like they're sharing world culture around the world, trying to bring it to the mass audiences. Okay, I like that endeavor. It sounds noble that way.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm a big advocate that like mythology matters and like the stories that we tell ourselves really matter and that none of them are original. So like,
What off track here? What's your favorite sort of like world mythology?
Oh man, it's so annoying to say Greek, but the Greeks are so
No, yeah.
they're so
That's
petty.
great, yeah.
So many stories too. So many good, intricate. Yeah, petties. Yeah. I get you. I have a funny story, and I apologize to whoever this is going to offend that's listening to this.
Oh no.
It's not that bad. But I had a world mythology class in college, and we're going over the syllabus, and the question was like, "Is there any teachers?" I was like, and we're going over Greek mythology and Norse mythology, and we're going over all these different like mythologies. And I asked if we were going to learn any stories from the Bible. And I got someone in my class, not even the teacher, goes, "The Bible's not a myth." And I go, "Oh, so okay." I was like, "Never mind. Forget I asked shit, I guess."
I think it's a fair question.
I thought it was a totally fair question. We could leave it at that. I was stunned at that response, though. I thought it was a very innocent question.
I think that's a really innocent thing to ask, and I'm sorry that that was their response.
I wanted to learn more about biblical stories. Sorry, I called them world mythology. I feel like that is an accurate
Great Flood
representation.
happened. That's how the Grand Canyon came to be, man.
This is There's a
I was
whole
ra- I
separate
was
tangent to go
raised-
on here that's really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, no, we don't even need to.
I was raised
Let's go
Christian.
back to space pirates.
Yeah.
Let's go back to space pirates. We've lost the thread already.
Well, like in the Bible, space pirates.
Yeah. Greek is hard to top, you know. I had a big Greek, just learning random trivia about Greek mythology in like middle school. And then when you get into like, started learning like the Roman mythology, copy paste of it, I started to lose it. It was like, oh, that's a little too much. And then
Yeah.
kind of grew
It
out of
becomes
my
confusing. You're like, I
Greek
kind of know
mythology
this
phase.
story.
Yeah. But yeah, Greek is tough to top. Norse, it seems pretty cool from what I am familiar with. Like,
If you think,
the
like,
concepts
Greek-
from like the MCU Thor, but like things like Ragnarok and like that are actually from the mythology are very interesting to me. So
Yeah.
that'd be a fun one to dive into.
If you
more.
find yourself in Greek mythology being like, that's an interesting decision for so and so to make, turn that up a few dials, and that's Norse mythology. You're like, why on earth would they choose to do that? Okay.
All right, and then dial it up more, and it's the Bible. Where no,
Yeah.
where does that fall on the spectrum?
Yeah, where's this? Okay. Okay. So Treasure Planet, though, it's a time-old tale. For this, at the time of this movie, this story's over 100 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1883.
And you know what? Another point to
think.
Chaz, we wouldn't know shit about this story if it wasn't for this Disney movie. We would.
enough, yeah.
I would have no idea. Well, there's a Treasure Island reference in Survivor one time. That's really funny, but that's the only other reference of Treasure Island I would ever have heard of besides this movie.
That's
And
so interesting to me.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever see The Page Master?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Oh,
Are you
my
making
God.
up Disney movies now?
No.
What is that?
No, The Page Master is not a Disney movie. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's Fox. It's half animated, half live action. Macaulay Culkin gets sucked into like the world of literature books inside a library, and he has to have 3 animated books like lead him through a bunch of different stories to get his way out of the library. It's very Christopher Lloyd is like a creepy old man. It's very spooky. It's very fun. God only knows how it's held up after all this time, but that was my first exposure to Treasure Island was through that movie. That's probably 92,
Okay.
93, somewhere in there. Macaulay Culkin's maybe 10
But
or
it's
11.
a literary reference. Yeah,
Yes.
it's old as hell even then.
Old as hell.
The 90s, yeah. The 90s were a wild era of just like, they would make whatever. Now it's got to be big IP. Like, they're not really, they're not making rom-coms or like so many genres have fallen to the wayside. So, but yeah, there was
I
so much
wanna-
random shit in the 90s.
I want to give the 90s their credit in the sense that I love their ambition of making real life and animated things on the same screen or at different times. They did that a whole lot where I
Hey.
feel like we've lost a bit of that.
LeBron had that dream too. In
LeBron
Space
had
Jam.
the same dream and it
The
didn't.
dream is a lie.
That fell a little flat, but
Yeah.
We fired
The
all
other
the
times-
animators.
Yeah.
that's so true. Oh my God. As a direct result. No, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, back to the space pirates. 'cause
Yeah.
I actually think the fact that it is these 18th century whatever ships, like, and they have solar sails, I think that is like such part of the charm of this movie. Does it make a whole lot of science fiction sense? Nah. Do I
Doesn't
need
need
it to?
to.
Nah,
No,
not at
yeah.
all.
No. The director said they realized if they wanted action scenes with people in spacesuits, it just kills the romance of it. So, in this
a great way to
movie,
put it.
the version of space is called the Ethereum, right? It's not actually space. It's like space, but there's an atmosphere.
Interesting. So they did explain it, and my dumbass missed it.
No. Not even. It's one. It is one line in the first
Yeah.
second of the movie. I don't even think you're supposed to care. It's
I-
so
Yeah.
like, it's
I
it's
like
so
that they
visually
addressed it, though.
pleasing.
It is. It is. That is it. The romance of it was a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It keeps the adventure, swashbuckling spirit of it alive, I think. But something you had alluded to, Chaz, this is directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, who had worked on Black Cauldron back in '85.
Yeah.
That duo went on to make movies like Aladdin, like The Great Mouse Detective, like Little Mermaid. Hercules,
Bangers.
I believe, was the
Hercules.
they had a run of like 7-ish movies. Hercules was the last one before they made Treasure Planet, which was their dream project that had been pitched late 80s-ish. So it had been percolating their brains for at least that long, and it was sort of the carrot at the end of the stick that Disney kept cracking at them.
Do you mind if I run you through the timeline?
Yeah.
No,
Please
tell
do,
us.
please
Yeah.
do.
I did. It's not as crazy as Black Cauldron. If whoever's listening or watching, the Black Cauldron timeline was crazy, and I came in a little overzealous on that one last time.
No, it was that was what
was
we
beautiful.
needed.
It was-
Go on, yeah.
You're
So
a historian.
basically, Musker and Clemens are like briefly working on Black Cauldron, and they're removed from that shit show, and they're assigned to go direct The Great Mouse Detective. And then in 1985, they have a meeting with Chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg and CEO Michael Eisner, two big names, and they pitch Treasure Island in Space and The Little Mermaid. And
Together.
Michael Eisner shuts down Treasure Island in Space because he knows Paramount's actually doing a Star Trek Treasure Island movie that never got made. But he shuts it down. So Musker and Clemens make The Little Mermaid, and that's a modest hit.
Yeah, to say the least.
I was surprised actually doing my research for this. That movie's not as big. I mean, it's
You're being for real.
it's massive. They were coming out of the Dark Age. It was number 3 for the year. It was big, but they were expecting it to be like the biggest movie of the year
Interesting.
ever, but it was a hit. Like Little Mermaid's not a cult classic. You know what I mean?
The cultural impact was maybe bigger than the box office, is what you're saying.
Yes. They got a lot of on VHS.
A lot of these Disney movies did, I think. Yeah, that makes sense.
So after Little Mermaid's a hit, they pitched Treasure Planet again in 1989, and instead they get assigned to direct Aladdin, which is a way bigger hit, biggest movie of the year. These two guys, they're on the rise. They have a full script now. So it's been years. They take it to Katzenberg to pitch Treasure Planet for a third time, and he says he just doesn't get it. He hates this idea. He hates this concept. He thinks it's a bad idea to put an old book in space. So instead, what he wants them to do is work on Princess of Mars. If you don't know what Princess of...
Hey, bad idea going the space route. Work on this other project called Princess of Mars.
If you don't know what Princess of Mars is, it is an old book in space, and it's from 1912. And it will later become John Carter, one of the biggest bombs in movie history.
Oh, my God. Okay.
They dodged the bullet on that one. So
Wow.
they're annoyed because they've been pitching this idea for 7 years. And they complain to Roy E. Disney, who's the head of animation, and Disney takes their side. So Eisner, the CEO, agrees that they should make Treasure Planet after they make Hercules.
That's crazy. They got so many bangers out of them, though. Yeah,
Bangers!
like they were like, you want to do this? This is what for you?
Yeah.
Do these. Dance, monkey.
It's amazing. And it takes Katzenberg like leaving the company for any headway on this to go forward. So while they're working on the movie, it's years of development like any animated movie. The studio has some concerns. They think Jim, the lead, is too harsh, too brooding. The second and third acts are brooding.
He's so brooding. They're right on that note.
We'll talk about Jim. Well, yeah, and it's apparently in the last like 5 months of production, much like Emperor's New Groove, they're like trying to fix some stuff in this thing. So they think the second and third acts are flat, and they're making all these fixes to make Jim more likable. In theory,
Skateboard.
give him a skateboard.
That's the easiest way.
Oh god,
Marty McFly him.
that thing is so cool.
It is so
yeah.
cool. I was instantly engaged. Literally set my phone down. I was like, oh, hold on.
It's what's crazy about that thing, watching it last night, I was watching it with my partner, and I haven't seen this in years. Like the Solar Surfer, I had a toy of it. I remember it being on posters. I've seen it on merch. It's in the movie for like a minute.
I know.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
He has a makeshift one towards the end, but the actual one I remember him doing always,
It's
only in the first minute
minutes,
and half of the movie. Yeah.
So you take something that fun, right? And in theory, this space adventure movie should have been a summer movie. And they had just had Lilo and Stitch the summer before. Things were doing okay. But Disney was locked into a Thanksgiving release date because of the McDonald's toy deal. So
Always.
for a year,
Capitalism.
yeah, they can't change anything for a year. and they're trying to finish this thing, and they don't believe in it. The studio doesn't believe in it because they can't get the second and third act right, and they decide that they're going to turn it into a holiday spectacle movie instead. They're hoping like we're going to make a big deal about like the 3D and the 2D meshing and like the technology in the movie and the spacedness. The critics are going to love that piece, and that's what they were hoping people would latch onto. So they launched this marketing campaign that they call unmemorable. Not fun, not exciting. They took the movie too seriously. They sank a bunch of money into releasing this in IMAX. It's the first movie ever released at the same time in IMAX and regular.
Oh.
There's a better way to standard's the word I'm looking for.
In regular.
And they were up against huge holiday movies, and it's a big bomb. It goes up against Chamber of Secrets. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Die Another Day, James Bond, which not a good one, but it's still
Not a
James
good one.
Bond.
Still James Bond.
The last
And-
Pierce Brosnan's farewell. So people are going to turn out for that.
People are gonna go, and the Santa Claus 2 and 8 Crazy Nights.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Okay.
It's got
That's
stacked
a tough
competition for
lineup, yeah.
holidays specifically. Because when you, around that time, even Thanksgiving, people want like a holiday themed type movie generally.
And if it's
and I know
not,
Harry Potter's not
Yes.
a holiday movie, but it somehow always is associated with
Because the
one
banquet
because
hall and the
it's
candle,
because
it
it's-
just looks like a Thanksgiving spread.
it's solely the banquet hall. Yeah, it looks like
Whatever that
Thanksgiving.
thing's
And there's
called.
always in the middle of the movie like a
Oh, yeah,
Christmas.
one-
there's always
Yeah.
snow. Yeah. Well, it's either like holiday movies. They've either got to be like a holiday movie, or they need to be the most expensive, most beautiful thing anybody's ever seen for the
Yeah.
award season to take it seriously.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And
Much like Red One, starring Chris Evans
Yep.
and The Rock.
can't
Really
wait.
bad. I kind of want to see it. I know it's not going to be like good.
I
It's
just
gonna be
It's
saw-
not going to
great.
be good.
It's gonna be great. It's so fun.
I just saw something that Amazon MGM is submitting it for like Best Picture or something.
Oh my god! It looks
Good.
campy enough
I
that I
believe-
think I'm
love that
gonna.
confidence.
I think I'm gonna enjoy it. I think.
So that's the
But-
baggage.
Yeah, that's the baggage, and how that pans out for him is it was made on a budget of 140 million, makes back 109.6 million, and I believe
That's brutal.
That's so bad.
yeah, and I believe roughly 30%. I think I read this something like 30-ish% of that was domestic, so most of it was abroad. It wasn't even popular here, but considering what it was up against, kind of a tough case to make. And killed all potential of a sequel that had Willem Dafoe signed on to
Yeah.
voice the villain. Most of the cast was going to return. It was all storyboarded, but they pulled the plug on it.
I didn't know the Willem Dafoe thing.
Wow.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. He's going to play a character called Ironbeard.
One, I was shocked this didn't have a sequel, because like watching it, it feels very primed sequel material. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Two, I'm shocked the marketing campaign, and I'd be curious the timeline here, just didn't go all in on the swashbuckling pirateness of it. Like, I get it's a sci-fi movie, but it's like an adventure movie more than anything.
I remember vaguely so I did a couple things. I watched a few trailers for this today, and I watched like the making of features that were played on Disney at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the first teasers for this, which I think came out with like Attack of the Clones actually, were like all about
Sci-fi.
It was all about like the expanse of space. It was the opening with the Solar Surfer, and then it was like shots of the world at the end, not a lot of dialogue, and then Treasure Planet, boom, 7-year-old sold. That's all I'm
Yeah.
looking for. And then I remember as it got closer to release, the making of features were always like, this is the most technologically interesting movie you're ever going to see in your life. The 2D and the 3D blended, blah, blah, blah. It's never been done. It's never been done. We started it on Tarzan, but we really figured it out here. That was the sell, was a watch the technology, which is cool, but like I didn't care. And I care now.
Yeah.
I care because you don't get into the Spider-Verse without a movie like this.
It's a good point.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. True.
but then the last ads, like the week it turned up, was all Ben the Robot and all Morph. And it's like, oh shit, we have a Disney movie. What? We have to figure out how to get kids to watch this thing. Like,
Yeah.
we have to sell
Yeah.
we have to sell the Martin Short robot. We have to figure that out. My partner called it the knockoff Robin Williams robot. Like they really wanted to do like Genie from Aladdin again, and then Robin Williams
Yeah.
just does that in robots later.
It actually reminded me of Batty from
Fern Gully.
Fern Gully, and so it is literally right in the same alley of all those goofy sidekicks, huge comedian attached to the name. I'm gonna be honest, I like Martin Short. He did fine.
It's fine. It's not that bad.
I didn't.
It's
Yeah, I
fine.
didn't find the character as objectionable as people seem to take it. But I guess maybe
I just thought
if
it
I
was
were a
fine more than
serious
anything.
movie
I think
critic
it
at
was
the
supposed
time,
to
I
be
might
like a
take
hit.
issue. Yeah.
But like it was fine. He wasn't like zany enough for me, I guess.
I've got a theory on Ben, and really, it's like it's hard to put your comic relief character in as like a character that only is in half the movie.
Maybe that's what it is.
It's such
He
like
feels,
the third act of the movie.
Yeah, he feels very out of place.
Not there for most of it.
It feels like he's turned up to like 11 to make up for the fact that he's not there for the rest of the movie. Where like the character in the book is like an old guy who's like been on the island a long time. He's lost his mind. He's not that kooky. He's not that zany. I think a lot of the Ben stuff is funny. It's just like once they get to Treasure Planet, not to like skip ahead in the plot or whatever. Once they get to there, it like the tone is so pensive and it's so like introspective.
Yes.
And then he comes along and it's just like, what's up? What's up? Was I ever dancing with an android named Will Bay? Oh my God, I could cry, I could kiss you, I could hug you, Jimmy boy, Jimmy, Jimmy, Jimmy Jam, Jim Jam, Jim Jam. And it's like, and everyone is so maudlin around him.
Yeah.
It's such a like weird, I don't think he's bad. I think the contrast is just off.
It's jarring.
I think you've actually, you nailed a great point. Is it's supposed to be much more pensive tone. We've gone through some emotional turmoil. We're heading towards the climax, and here comes the goofy sidekick out of nowhere for the last third of the movie.
Literally out of nowhere, yeah. For like the last 30 minutes of the movie, he just shows up.
He just shows
as a
up.
plot device, essentially.
Yeah.
That's the sole
Yeah, that's
purpose he serves towards the end.
Yeah,
He's a lot,
he didn't.
but
He
he's
didn't
fun.
learn anything. Well, I mean, he learned a lot, but like he didn't go on like an emotional journey at all. He was just there.
I mean, the thing about the journeys in this movie, what I have to say, and I have to be so brave to say this, guys. Jim's not a great character. Jim barely goes on an.
Okay.
Wait, let's talk about Jim because I there's some things I really like about Jim, and then there's some things I really don't like about Jim. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say about him. Well, starting with Jim is portrayed by the Joseph Gordon Levitt, which really
Amazing.
surprised me. I don't know how old he would have been in 2002. He's a bit younger, but oh man, does this man hit every brood in the script. Anytime it says say this broodingly, he nails it. Like, I don't even know how I worked on an impression and I can't do it. It's so bad. I don't have the tone, but he like very well is like he's like enunciating things to get more sass in there sometimes.
I feel like this was pitch perfect casting because I imagine that's sort of where he was in his career. He was a child star.
Yep.
He had
He's
a
gotta be.
stint on Third Rock on the Sun. I probably
That's
Third Rock on the
right.
Sun. Some other
That's where
stuff.
he.
And this is pre 500 Days
Yep.
of summer,
Of summer.
which is like the re-emergence.
Where does this
stuff.
land in 10 Things I Hate About You, though?
He would
Is
have
that a
recorded
90s
it.
movie?
He would have recorded it probably around the same time.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
So he's
Like
got some angst, you know.
He's got the angst.
He's got
it's
some
it's
angst
a
to
great
bring to
casting
the
now
role.
that you put it that way, actually. When I think about 10 Things I Hate About You, Joseph Gordon Levitt, he's great for Jim.
I love that movie.
He
too.
is. I think that movie's great.
I haven't seen 10 Things I Hate About You. It's probably a huge blind spot, but I really enjoyed Jim. like Joseph
You really
Gordon-Levitt,
like
yeah.
him throughout the whole film?
Okay, I guess maybe I'm just like projecting myself onto Jim and like he's like a blank canvas for
Yes.
and this is a theory I have about broader things in our culture today is that has the pivot to female protagonists given us a void of male protagonists because Jim is troubled, he's a little bit rebellious, and then he ends up joining the military. But has this shift towards female protagonists given young men in the United States, or left them with a void of characters they can relate to, which has turned into our current political climate where we where we have Gen Z shifting right and like turning into
Because this
incels.
generation didn't have a gym.
Because they didn't have
That's
Jim
why
Hawkins, yeah.
we're at where we're at. You're saying?
I think that's why we're at
Okay.
where we're at. That's
It's a
my
good theory. All right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a new one. That's for sure.
Didn't boys have Top Gun like 2 years ago?
That's true. It's too late.
It's too
I think
late. You know, you're right.
I think that's,
2 years ago, they're
that's
already
like Gen
formed
X and
opinions.
millennials loving that movie.
Yeah.
Evan
know what I
wants
mean?
Top Gun, but for babies.
Yeah, no. I think
Yeah.
that you're not wrong.
I'm not saying
I'm
that
thinking.
it's necessary. You know what I mean? I don't think that should be a requirement for young men to learn empathy and how to care for others and
Sure.
learn how to fact check and look for primary sources.
Yeah, but Jim didn't
I'm
do
just saying,
all
maybe,
of these
maybe there's
things.
some
Jim didn't do
broader
any of those
correlations.
things in this movie.
I know. I'm just the aspiration of being a better person instead of a little shithead
For
trolling
people,
on it.
for people listening to this in the future, this is being recorded about 1 week after the election of Donald Trump.
Specifically
Yeah.
1 week. All right.
And so
The
there's a lot of
re-election,
soul
yeah.
searching
Fresh.
going on for everybody.
It's fresh.
Yeah.
It's on our minds. I don't have a car at the moment, so I'm getting a lot of things delivered to my house. Marty has made it so easy because not only are they fast and efficient, but they're the cheapest option out there by far.
I get these matcha lattes that retail for like $45 for a 12-pack, and I've never bought it full price. I get it on Marty for $15. Marty's woman-owned, sustainable, socially conscious, and eco-friendly. What they do is they buy up surplus inventory from the top brands that you love, and they sell it to you at a lower price, so you save food waste and you save money.
That was my first question, was how do they get these things so cheap? But they have a model and it's passing savings on to you. They got hundreds of items, fast shipping, no subscriptions needed, and you can save on all the great food that you love. We do have a discount code when you go to marty.com/2dudeswatchcartoons, all one word.
TWO, dudes watch
TWO, 2 dudes watch cartoons, all one word. You can save $5 off your order.
Go to marty.com/2dudeswatchcartoons at our link in bio, or just plug in the promo code 2dudeswatchcartoons. That's TWO, dudes watch cartoons. Thanks for supporting the pod. Go get yourself some delicious snacks. Alex, go figure out the car situation. I don't know what's going on.
I don't need to with Marty.
Back to the episode.
Two dudes watch cartoons.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that my problem with Jim is honestly, actually, yeah, it was him joining the military at the end. Was that the lesson he learned from all of this? He didn't
Yeah,
learn to
it
go
felt
out
like a
and
weird
be
move.
a pirate? What? Like, I'm so confused.
Okay. Yes. There was a line he says that made all of my problems with Jim click into place for me. And it's and it's when he's with Silver at the end. Silver's like trying to get away and he's doing his little cheeky goodbye. And Jim is like, Silver's like, oh, come with me. And Jim is like, when I first got on this boat, I might have taken you up on that offer, but then I met this old scalawag. Said something. I forget what he says. He's like, and then I realize I know exactly where I'm going now. He's like, where is that? He's like, ahead, the future. I'm moving to. And I was like, okay, so there's like 5 problems I have with this as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, you just had to tell me what your arc was,
Yeah.
and Hercules doesn't have to do that. Like other movies these guys have directed and written don't have to do that. Aladdin
true.
doesn't have to tell me his arc.
Yeah.
Ariel doesn't have to tell me her arc. She doesn't have one. Triton does.
Trident's the only one that learned something.
Yeah, exactly, right? But like Jim, every line out of his mouth is either this thing is happening or this is what I'm going to do.
There's a ton of, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to get that thing. I'm going to go over there. There's no space to get into his head whatsoever to get to know him because he's so sullen and withdrawn for the entire movie.
He's too withdrawn. Do we know why he's so angsty and withdrawn?
No, well, his dad
His
left,
father left.
which is real.
Yeah, I was not trying to downplay that. I was about to say, is that it? But like,
I think
he's
it's it.
so angsty.
I mean, hey, 16 sucks, but like,
Yeah,
there's-
you're right. You're right. 16, you're just mad at the world already.
the only moment in this movie where his dialogue isn't, "This is what is happening," or this is what I'm going to do, is when he's like trying to get into Silver's head at the very beginning on the ship, and he's like, these perps, they're a lot like the ones back on Montresor. Yeah, you ever been down there? Yeah, right before I left, I met this old guy who's looking for a cyborg named Billy Bones. You ever heard of Billy Bones? And it's like, it's the only moment of personality for Jim in the whole movie, and he's still telling me a thing that already happened.
Yeah.
He's still telling me what happened. But then, his mom at the beginning is like, he's smart. And we never get to see him be smart until the last 2 minutes of the movie. It's like he takes directions and he's adapting, but he's never having to solve a problem. Like Silver's always just giving him things to do and he just does them, but he's not having to come up with the moment where he's like, we have to get up to the ship and get the map back from the ship, right? They're on the planet. He doesn't come up with the solution. Ben does. There's no like what I like about him is that the superpower at the end is his imagination, right? His will to keep going, his belief in the future. That's beautiful. That's awesome. I just wish that I got to see more of that. Also, one more thing. He has no relationships with any character in this movie at all.
Besides Silver.
Yeah, except for
Silver.
Except for Silver. And their dynamic is amazing. And it's entirely because of Silver's decisions in their relationship.
100%.
Yeah.
I actually noticed that this time around, I would go, this is kind of a story about Silver, weirdly, more than like
He's
we're
awesome.
yeah,
He's
we're
amazing.
following Jim, but like this is really about like what Silver's doing and deciding more than like Jim was a lot. You're so right. Jim was a passive stowaway on this whole journey throughout this whole story. Like he just kind of went with the flow. Like yeah, it was his idea. He got the map. Man, that bugged me too. I actually loved it as a kid when he twist, click, 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 click. But this time around, I was like, he just guessed it? I was literally like, huh? What? Not even like 1-2 tries? He got it right away?
He's smart.
My partner he is smart. My partner was like, why is he the only one who can do it? Why is he like the only one who knows the combination? Is he just has the most time on his hands to put? And like, look, I'm ragging on this thing. I love this movie.
Yeah, I do too. I really enjoyed it, even though I'm bragging on it.
I think this thing rips, especially like the first hour of this, from the moment it starts until they get on Treasure Planet, bam, 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 perfect. Everything is perfect.
I agree. I so strongly feel like, yes, it's a fun sci-fi adventure, but that is really just the skin of this. This is like a pirating adventure through and through, meeting a crew. There's going to be a mutiny. The people have to decide if they're going to betray their friends or their new person. Like, it's so good. And like I said, Silver for me is actually and Morph. God, I love me some Morph. Silver and Morph, like that was when the movie started, when we met them. I even loved them cooking and chopping. And man, I felt like his arm could do so many things, except
pretty
usually
sweet.
the thing we needed in the moment.
He could weld at the end.
That was
cool.
his most clutch
Yeah.
moment. He was like, I need something to keep this together. Weld, yeah, fuck yeah, finally.
Chaz, you're not wrong about any particular criticism you have of Jim Versay. I think at the end with Silver, he says something along the lines of like, "Oh, like this old scalawag told me I need to chart my own course."
That's it. That's what he says.
Yeah, and his takeaway is that he's got to do that by joining the military.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, that was sad. That was so sad to me.
Yeah.
Because how many guys did you guys know in high school that had no objective future going on for them, and they were groomed by these adult men coming into your high school and being like, "We'll give you a." I mean, good for Jim.
18's too young. 18's too young.
Yeah.
And Jim's younger than 18.
It's like I couldn't tell if it was like an ROTC thing.
Look,
Yeah.
whatever it was, he had to cut off his rat tail. I wanted this movie ending with him in a pirate hat and a rat tail that went down to his butt, not him joining the military.
I guess historically, right? Like a lot of pirates were in the military or they were naval captains before they defected.
That's actually
So-
very true. I'll give you that one.
Fun.
That is factual.
Fun future sequel would have been Jim realizing that he wanted to be a pirate all along, and now he just has the experience and the what's the word I'm looking for? The esteem,
Relevant
the
skill set.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
If that is where the series is going, I can suspend some of my gripes there.
But otherwise, it's
But
weird.
we'll never know.
Yeah.
But
It's-
if
otherwise,
not,
I
it's a
can't drop my
choice
beef
for
with
an
Jim.
ending. Because here's the other thing. We talk about like Jim is such a passenger here. Think about the climax of the movie. We're jumping all around here, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Think about the climax of the movie. Silver has to decide between the money or the friendship.
Yes.
It's not anything Jim didn't have to decide, like, do I want to save this guy? Like, it literally should have been flipped. Like, do I want to save this guy who almost sold me out and tried to screw me? Or
the
do
money.
I want the gold?
Yes.
But it was Silver's decision.
Yeah, it's I have to wonder, like, when these guys are pitching this script years before the thing, who is Jim and who is Silver in those original scripts? Because
Yeah.
when I was doing the research and learning like how much production interference there was, which I said last time, I don't necessarily care about. That's just how movies get made. But learning that everybody at the studio was concerned that Jim was not likable and that he's too brooding and he's too harsh and he's too flat, and the second and third act have no arc because Jim has no dimension. I get it, and I wonder how much they did to try to fix that, or what they cut out or added to try to fix that, because
They
doesn't.
said, bring in Joseph Gordon Levitt. No, I'm kidding.
I said bring in Martin Short.
They said bring in Martin Short and just have him scream. Bring in the farting alien, or just have that thing around just a couple times.
Wait,
Yeah.
I totally, in my notes, I have one note for you guys. Do you think farts are funny?
I went on an
Always.
arc. I go on arcs with farts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Farts are funny.
So I think one of the criticisms from Disney execs at the time was that Jim was older than maybe this source he is in the source material.
Yeah.
A younger,
Oh.
like a boy.
Yeah, Jim's like
He's a
10.
boy,
in
boy.
the- Yeah.
10 in the book.
Whoa.
And so to that end, I feel like I applaud the filmmakers for sticking with their guns. I think it does make the relationship between him and Silver a little more. It's not just like like Peter Pan versus Captain Hook or some shit. Like there's a little more layers to it.
Yeah.
But the other thing that's sort of interesting about the people who wrote the story for this, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, I don't remember if they were involved with Black Cauldron, but they did go on to write Pirates of the Caribbean and Shrek.
No way.
I could see that. This is a pirate movie. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I
So-
love that. God. Actually, I want to talk about Jim. Last thing about Jim.
No,
And
We spent all time, all
Jim's the
episode
main
talking about
character.
Jim is the main character. Well, because I think we could also talk
Kinda.
forever about how good Silver is, because I think Silver's just like
He's the
one of
movie.
the one of the cooler animation characters. Period. I think.
what was
Yes.
nice for me is it's been so long since I seen this movie. I was like, is he a bad guy? I was like, I don't remember. Is he actually a bad guy? I like couldn't convince myself one way or the other. So I went on a fun ride this rewatch.
So my partner had been in a high school production of Treasure Island, the play, and so had a little bit more attachment to like the source material than I did. And like I've seen the Muppet version. That's it. I watched the Disney 1953 version as a kid. I just don't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
Crazy, by the way, that like there was so much stalling on Treasure Island in space when there was already like
They've
Alex
done
said,
it.
two versions. Yeah. There's apparently a big moment in the book and the play is Jim killing a man. And this is like a big
Oh.
this is a big character dynamic shift for him, is when he kills a man with a gun. And
Oh, I want that, Jim.
and it happens in this movie.
Jim.
He kills Scroop when Scroop the Spider-Man is flying up into space, and he cuts the thing and lets him. There's a big body count in this movie. I didn't recognize like I watched like 6 or 7 people fall to their deaths in this movie,
Yeah.
and all of them they die the same way.
So falling to your death is like so Disney. Even
Yeah.
all the way back to Mufasa.
Yep.
And like they won't have lions like slaughtering each other to their death. It's always, which
Yeah.
as a kid, if they don't like say, oh, they're dead, you kind of are just like, oh yeah, they're gone. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
so Disney's way of PGing things.
Yeah, Frollo like falls into the fire. Clayton strangles himself in the vines.
Yeah,
That was gnarly. But like
that one is gnarly.
Jim, totally like granted, life or death. He's like in a chase with this guy. Cuts the rope. I had a hard time with the word rope. He cuts the rope, and lets Scroop drift off into space, screaming in agony to his death.
Yeah, he deserved it though.
He did. What I'd like is maybe like
This is why pirating is fun though. Is like, get him, get his ass.
I
Like,
agree.
Get his ass. We're all bad guys here.
I think it's just like, oh god, I know it's so late in production, but like, what if Jim's body language just changed a little bit after that?
Yeah.
That's all I
little
mean.
Remorse or reflection.
That's all I mean. He's like, he's got such a cool design with this guy. It'd just be cool to see him go through some evolution.
Sure.
scar.
But what if
The scar
what
is
if
great.
Yeah.
that experience was formative in him deciding to join the military? He's like, oh, I love killing motherfuckers.
Oh god.
He's like, I gotta do more of that.
Sign me up.
Did Scroop scare you guys, you think, as a kid at all?
I don't particularly remember, but he probably was the scariest of the pirating crew.
He freaked me out, but he didn't scare me. You know what did scare me? The little Helena Bottom Carter alien that keeps screaming who's got her head on two legs.
Was that
She-
Helen?
No, it's not actually. She just reminds me of
Okay.
Helena
Looks
Bottom
like
Carter.
her.
She
enough.
freaks me out.
Did you guys want more or less aliens in this movie?
I wanted more of Captain Amelia. I was like, oh,
Period. You
I'm
should say
feeling
King.
weird thing.
Extrapolate that on that part of it. No, I'm kidding.
You got to say more King. I love it.
There's got to be some deviant art account dedicated to this
Dude.
character.
Disney is also the king of that too. If I don't even know what that is, but as a kid, kids were like, yeah, no, I like her. Like, they don't. You know what I'm saying? It's
Why is she so foxy?
literally, yeah.
She's
Disney.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Disney only does that with their female characters. They're either old ladies, or they're foxy, sometimes not human.
Did anyone at the beginning of the movie have the thought that maybe it was Delbert and Jim's mom were gonna like pair up towards the end because they had like a not flirty. It was like he
But
got
she shut
mistaken
it
for
down
the
early.
dad.
Super
Yeah.
quick. She's like, oh, no, never. No, never.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
Absolutely not. No, couldn't possibly dream of it.
I think
To a
that was
robot who you don't
I
need
think
to
that-
explain yourself to.
Sure. Yeah, I felt like that was a weird like they just left his mom hanging, like no story resolution.
There was
nothing
very
for her.
Jim and her
She
are
gets
not the
her-
main characters.
She gets her motel, her inn or whatever towards the end, but like I thought like if there was gonna be a wholesome relationship formed, it would be like his mother finds someone after all this time.
No.
Wow.
I like that his mom's arc is like, whatever will I do with my son? And then thank God somebody fixed my son.
Yeah.
The military fixed my son, and being a pirate will fix my son.
Yeah.
He came back richer, thank God.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. You know what? Honestly, in hindsight, Captain Amelia might have been maybe the first woman in a position of power I saw in a movie
Wow.
like this growing up.
that's
Where,
a good
like,
point. She's a
Much
captain.
needed in these times.
Yeah.
And I never questioned, like, I mean, kids don't question things if you just write them well, but like, I just never questioned it.
Yeah.
Like, she's so in command of everything, and she's funny, and if I was straight, I'd probably think she's hot.
Yeah.
Wonderfully voiced by Emma Thompson.
Ooh, great job.
What was she doing
Oh.
around? I mean, she's obviously a great actor.
She's in yeah. This cast is crazy. Let's go through. So it's Joseph Gordon Levitt. Someone take it from there, please.
Emma Thompson. She was in. Yeah, Emma Thompson is the captain. Hold on, I'm just gonna look it up. Why am I
know
making
there's
this harder than it has to be?
Christopher
David Hyde Pierce from
David Hyde
Frasier.
Pierce.
David Hyde Pierce.
Nigel
Oh, he's
in
in
Frasier.
Frasier.
Also,
do you want to know what?
voiced someone in Bug's Life? He's
Oh.
that's I like his voice sounded so familiar. Is he the stick bug in Bug's Life?
Yeah, that sounds
Right.
right.
Yes, he
Smart
is.
bug.
Yes,
You want to
yes,
know what
he
I
is.
know
Okay.
him from?
What?
You guys ever watch Wet Hot American Summer? He's the physicist
I
in the
must have seen
movie.
it, yeah.
Okay, that the three people that have seen it are laughing. That's a great movie. You should all go watch Wet Hot American Summer.
They love making him a doctor.
Yeah, he's got
but
the
the-
voice for it.
The guy who played Silver is a really famous theater actor.
Okay.
His voice was great. He had a very good pirate accent, but then he would sometimes say "ting" for thing,
Ting.
and I was like, "Where's
Yeah.
he from?"
He was like,
"What is going on
What
here?"
was that accent?
kind of,
Is he
it's like
doing
kind
an
of Irish,
accent?
kind of
Yeah.
Irish sometimes.
I have no
Okay.
idea what it was. It really threw me off.
He shows up in 30 Rock in one episode as Jack's dad, if that means
Oh.
anything to anybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Brian
love
Murray
30
is
Rock.
his name. A South African actor.
Oh,
Okay.
Martin Short, Laurie Metcalfe was the mom.
Martin Short, Laurie
Yeah.
Metcalfe. Okay.
Those are the big ones.
Honestly,
Yeah.
the last thing I saw Emma Thompson in was the Netflix Matilda, which slaps. It's the musical version.
I've heard that's great.
awesome.
Oh, I
Yeah,
haven't
it's
seen
a
it. I didn't
blast.
know that.
Yeah.
Putting it on my list.
You'll have a great time.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just good cast, right time, movie slaps. It's
Yeah.
it's
Did it? I'm asking genuinely. I really don't know the answer. Did this gain more prominence after its theatrical release?
I don't think so. In any meaningful manner.
no. I think
It's a cult
it seemed
classic.
yeah. It seems like it became a cult classic. It seems like a generation of kids grew up with it because all Disney movies are something you just have around.
100%.
And I'm seeing kids maybe like 5-10 years younger than me when I like teach and stuff, and movies come up occasionally. They've seen Treasure Planet. They're like they know the
Nice.
movie. And on TikTok there's a generation of kids now going like, oh, this is so underrated. Oh, the Goo Goo Dolls the Goo Goo Dolls song, and it like all these things.
And you're like, we've been there, done that.
That might be my biggest gripe with this movie.
Really?
Yeah, it just feels. I don't know. It took me out of it, and also the heavy reliance on that musical montage to like jumpstart all of Silver's and Jim's like relationship. You
Sure.
know, they're
Yeah, if you're not paying
I wasn't a
attention to
fan
that
of the Goo Goo
montage, you
Dolls.
don't know he's being genuine at all.
You don't know his dad left. I don't know if it's mentioned in dialogue before that, but like that's where they show the flashback.
The emotional manipulation moments in this movie, every time we like learn a thing about Jim, the very beginning where he's a little boy and then he's reading the book and then it flashes to his face, the entire I'm Still Here montage, all really, really worked on me, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That-
no,
that-
I get it.
That's okay.
It
I think
manipulated
it's
me.
the
It
music
really
took me out. The montage itself is constructed well, just like the contemporary music. I think took me out of it. But
I think Evan doesn't like that as a principle for like most movies, though.
yeah.
No, I respect that. I saw a Letterboxd review where someone said, "Don't show me a space opera and then put contemporary music in it."
Exactly. I was like, in the moment, I was like, "Is this fucking like Switchfoot or like who is this?" It's one of those
That is John Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls,
from
my
the Goo
friend.
Goo Dolls. Yeah.
Something you said, Chaz, that was great. I loved the opening scene of him with the book, and he's like watching the story, and then his face shows up, and I go, "What the fuck's going on here?" That was great. It was just reading a story like that. I love when sci-fi gives us those type of inventions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm all for the better quality of life, but like that's cool shit to me. Like a book that's like a movie. Be reading books every day.
We're sort of getting there with AR, like you know,
there.
Apple
Close.
Vision. That's
I thought about
close.
that. Yeah, reading when he was
Yeah.
reading the book this time watching it, I was like, oh, that's actually like kind of close. We have versions of that actually.
We're
Yeah.
getting there. We're always getting there. It always looks a little different, but it's the same concept.
Yeah.
I do like that very first scene we see of him as a little boy, like the wide-eyed wonder. Like
Yeah.
I think that's maybe where it departs from what Disney execs wanted. You know, I don't know if that would have made it more successful as a film. I don't think that's what the film needs, but I think that's what it captured in me watching it at the time. It
Yes.
sort of still does. Is like the wide-eyed wonder of like space, pirates, anything you think is cool at that time is like in this movie.
Also, just a really cute kid design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you guys can roast me, but I feel like for a number of years I mixed this movie up with another movie, Atlantis.
When you
I
say
feel
you
like-
mixed it up with Atlantis, what do you mean by that?
I feel like the characters look similarly drawn, I guess. Like I feel like I've seen stills from Atlantis and I was like, oh yeah, treasure planet. And then like watching it again, I was like, oh, that dude that I'm picturing is not in this movie at all. Like the main
Yeah.
character in
Yeah,
Atlantis,
yeah.
I guess.
Milo. I think
Milo,
it's probably
yeah.
like the steampunk element.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
one
that's what it
steampunk
is.
feature, one steampunk.
I was
past,
waiting for like
present.
a Ben to drop halfway through the movie. I was like, is he coming in at some point? What's going on here?
Yeah, I rewatched Atlantis maybe like 7 months ago. I also
Which one
loved
did you like better?
this one. I loved Atlantis as a kid, and Atlantis,
okay.
as a kid, I talked about Atlantis so much. I got bullied out of a school system for it. That is a real no. Well, whatever.
Because
I
of
was,
Atlantis?
yeah, well, I was 5.
Please
Whatever.
elaborate.
Well, no, I was like, I was 5, and I got really fixated on the idea of Atlantis, and it's all I talked about, and people bullied me for it because I was 5 and annoying, and like that.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. I'm cool now, but like, I'm cool now, but. So these two movies are like really spiritually similar, and again, it's Disney's like obsession with like finding a boy movie that they parlay into Atlantis later and go like no songs, no princesses, only explosions, make an action movie, just animate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same like spiritual strain as the guy, as like the thought behind making some of this movie, but it's like, well, we need to put Jim's kind of a Disney princess, I guess. He needs a song, but it can't be him singing. Let's do the Tarzan thing where there's a disembodied voice singing the song for him.
Could you imagine if he was singing?
No.
If it was
No, total. No, I would clock out from the movie.
that could be cool. Him, swaying on the whatever ropes of the ship. Now, if the contemporary music were Phil Collins, I might feel differently. If it was, bumping to two worlds, one family.
So is it the like? Okay, and I asked this because my dad's favorite band was the Goo Goo Dolls, and I ended up seeing them 6 or 7 times when I was in middle school because of that. Is it the sound for you? Is it his voice?
It's the sound. It's not. It's nothing against the Goo Goo Dolls, particularly.
You could. Hey, safe space. My dad's not
It's what
listening. It's okay.
Sure.
It's not what you picture for space, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it just pulls me out of it.
question to the world.
Yeah, like the angsty, like it felt very appropriate for that scene, and that he was being angsty, but then like it was like too on the nose. I was like, what are we? Come on.
It is pretty like it's really earnest. It's like
Yes, it is.
there's not a lot of like cynicism in the movie, which
No.
doesn't need to
Do
be.
you
But
think the movie could benefit from a little more cynicism?
I think a little bit more cynicism would have made this as good as Hercules or Aladdin.
I actually totally agree with that. If I'm
Okay.
being honest, I think that is part of as the pirate lore. Like we were talking about when he kills the scorpion scary dude, that should have been maybe more of a moment, a change.
Yes, and you know what? It's not even cynicism. The thing that those two movies by these same guys have a little bit more of is just teeth.
Great
It's-
way to put
yeah.
it.
It's not cynicism. It's just like now that I know, I can't unknow how much like cutting and pasting there is going on in this to try to make me like Jim when I'm still struggling to like him. Where we're feeling like if there had just been a little bit more like bite to the thing. Yeah, he kills a guy.
Grapple
kills a
with
man.
something.
It would make it,
anything in
make
this
him
movie.
struggle with it. Yeah. He literally
with
didn't have
that.
to struggle with anything. He was like, man, I want to go pirating. And his mom's like, well, I guess you got to go pirating then. Like, he literally, like,
Yeah,
there
there's
was
no- yeah.
Yeah.
roadblock for him besides getting there.
Yeah, does he face a big obstacle in this movie? Because he
No.
wants to. He goes to.
It's
he wants to go
physical
to-
obstacles. He faces physical obstacles.
He has to jump over some things.
Literally, yeah.
Like
But,
he never really. This is the thing. Oh God, it's that relational thing I was talking about earlier. Like he doesn't have a relationship really with Doppler. Doppler like says things to him and he just like doesn't respond. And they never interact at all over the
I
course
really
of the
thought
movie.
Doppler
Yeah.
was supposed to be like his father figure. And like that
Same.
never happened.
Never
No,
happened.
no, he's just a bumbling adult who's there. And then
Uh-huh.
the captain, they have like the start of a relationship because she's like,
They barely talk together
like-
throughout the film.
yeah, she puts him in his place once at the beginning, and then once Mr. Arrow dies, she looks at him, And that's it. That's their relationship. She never says anything to him, and he never says anything to her other than like, "I'm gonna go get the map."
His directional lines.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You think
it's like-
Joseph Gordon-Levitt fucked up and he's reading the like
Stage
stage
direction.
cues. Yeah.
No, it's like, I don't know. It doesn't even make him a bad character. It just makes him hard to. It makes it hard for me to root for him the same way I root for Hercules or the same way I root for Aladdin and Jasmine.
I think the issue is we see a bit of the emotional gray turmoil we're looking for in Silver.
In Silver.
yeah.
They
You're totally
can
right.
do it. We know it's possible. They
Oh.
can work it into the story. Like I said, I genuinely think we have a whole different movie if you flip Jim and Silver at the end. Is he like gonna say like? Is Jim gonna actually save him or keep the treasure for his mom and
Yeah.
everyone back home? He's got a decision to make. I couldn't wrap my head around how was that not his decision to make? Why did it come down to Silver being like, do I love money or this boy? I don't know.
You know, I guess there's an argument you can make that's like the decision he makes at the end to have to figure the portal out to get them out of there and back home is a consequence of him wanting to go on the adventure at all. I guess you could say that.
A very charitable read.
That's literally be like, I guess the mistake was leaving home at all. None of this would have happened if I hadn't have just left home.
Yeah, but like every step along the way, other than when he stabs Silver in the leg, every decision is Silver's that gets him there. He doesn't do anything to Silver. He just has a cool cane after that.
And that's the other thing is Silver does not really change. He changes in the way that I love you, kid, and I'm gonna keep you alive and not betray you, and I betrayed my friends for you. Still gonna go be an old scallywag on the seas, though.
Why did Silver appear in a Mufasa cloud at the end? Is he dead?
Just watching over
think
me
he's
wherever I go.
No, Jim is going to see him everywhere he goes.
Remember.
That's funny.
It was a really cute scene when he goes, Morph, I got a mission for you. You got to go do this thing over there. You take care of Jim now. You see, yar. I was like, that was pretty cute. It was the
adorable.
old, get out of here, dog.
Yeah.
I liked that. I like everything Silver does in this movie.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm really ragging on this movie, but I enjoyed the ride start to finish. There was never a moment I was not entertained.
I haven't personally seen Atlantis, but from what I have read about it, it also didn't perform great, right?
Another big bomb. Another big
What's
bomb.
going on with these boy movies?
Well,
that he's trying to make?
it was the way they marketed them and their obsession with like, well, we've got our girl thing. We've got the princesses over here, so we need a boy thing, which was just totally missing the point that, and I think I said this last time, every boy on the planet has seen Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. And
That's a great point.
and now they solved that problem by just having Star Wars and having Marvel.
They're like, I guess we'll buy some boy properties then.
Yeah, no, seriously. And that has solved the issue for them because now they can just continue to make Frozen 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they can make, you know, the
No one will
girlier
look the other way.
Yeah, I mean like
Yeah.
whatever, you get a Coco every once in a while. But with Atlantis, it's like there were these string of movies that just bombed one after the other, and it was so Fantasia 2000 does not do good for them. And
Is
then
Fantasia the movie I watched in music class? Like when we had like a sub?
yeah,
To this day, Fantasia
scared me.
2000 made me fall in love with Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin. It's one of my favorite pieces of music of all
You
time.
still listen to it.
I still listen to it.
Fantasia
What's it
2000.
called again?
Rhapsody in Blue
Rhapsody in Blue. I
by
want to
George
listen to it. I
Gershwin.
never
It's like
You
the
know it.
jazzy one. There's different
When you
people.
listen, you
When I
know
hear
it
it,
as soon as
okay,
you
okay.
listen to it.
Okay, I'm excited.
It's a very famous.
It kind of creeped me out the first couple times watching it, but I swear they made me watch it so many times. By the end, I was like, "Yeah, dancing brooms, water, bucket. I get it."
Yeah, yeah. So they make another one later. The one that was the one Walt wanted. Sorry. Okay, so they're coming out of the Renaissance, right? Dinosaur, bomb. Fantasia 2000, bomb. Emperor's New Groove, modest success. People like that one.
Love The
Yeah.
Emperor's New Groove. We talked about the production troubles on that movie.
Okay.
How they basically changed the whole thing like halfway
Yes.
through.
I love the story of that movie. And then Atlantis, and then Lilo and Stitch, and then Lilo and Stitch, modest hit.
Yeah.
Treasure Planet, bomb. Brother Bear, modest hit. Home on the Range, biggest bomb ever. Kill the animation department.
Wow.
Fire all the animators. We can't keep doing this because they'd had so many bombs just one after the other, and they only bring them back for Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh.
Wow.
That's
And
crazy.
Don't Musker and Clements do Moana?
They do Moana. They do Princess and the Frog actually,
Oh,
Okay.
and then they do Moana.
wow.
So these
What?
guys are
They
not.
got a
Yeah.
great track record.
They've had a great filmography. These guys are doing awesome.
Yeah.
Do you
Disney's-
think it upsets them? That if they're listening, they're going to be pissed. Do you think it
Let's
upsets
get
them
them
that
on.
like their passion project was like their one film that bombed?
I think from the years of 2002 through 2007, they got great therapy to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of
Probably.
putting it. Good way of putting it. God, that just like that frustrates me as someone who loves creative
Yeah.
output.
Yeah.
This is the one
Yeah.
they wanted to
'Cause-
do, and they were like, "Oh, Little Mermaid, oh, Aladdin, oh, Hercules." And they're like, "What about Treasure Planet?" And then this is how it ends up. Like that.
It
not
is-
saying it's not a good
yeah.
movie, but it's just not on the same level of like a Hercules and Aladdin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think this vein of like adventure sci-fi movie though that Disney has not had success with is a fun genre, and I don't know who else is making it. Their latest also is a bomb, Strange World. Lightyear, the
we
more
like
straightforward
Strange World,
sci-fi
though.
movie, also a bomb.
Strange World was fun,
Atlantis,
though.
Tron originally was a
Yeah,
bomb.
they
I
just
think
can't do
Tron
it. They really can't. You're
Legacy
right,
is all-
actually.
yeah.
And then
They just
I hate
don't-
to be that guy, but they bought Star Wars and they kind of started
Yeah.
flubbing it up. They just don't have the sci-fi genre down at all.
I don't know if Pirates of the Caribbean being a success
Love
is maybe
Pirates of the
one
Caribbean.
counterpoint in that they got it right. So I don't know. I would love to see more movies like this. I don't really remember Titan AE, but that's the one I always confused, sort
That
of like
yeah, and I get why. Yeah.
commingle those in my head. But
Yeah, I
this
can't
was
say anything is like this. I think that's like maybe the best thing about it is how rich it is and how dimensional it is. It feels like really developed, and the characters are really specific. The designs are really specific. The world is really specific. I've never really seen a movie that looks like this, except for Strange World. Actually, is a really good. It's a really
Yeah.
good analog, I guess.
Yeah.
And and total huge bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of their worst bombs ever, or some like it had some bad record. I don't even remember what it was. But I like Strange World. I think that this is an interesting thing we've stumbled upon, that Disney is struggling with these boy films, as we call it. So much so that they were just like, we got to buy Marvel and Star Wars to make this work here. Okay, let's before we get into maybe some letterbox reviews, let's go around, give our closing thoughts, and we can give it a score out of 5 stars, and then we can read some reviews here. Does anyone want to start with their closing thoughts? I'd be happy to start if no one else does.
I can kick it off.
Go for it.
Yeah. This movie captured my imagination as a kid. Perhaps not enough for me to become like a raving fan of it and continue watching it and wearing out a VHS of it. But going back, I see why I loved it then. And it saddens me that we don't really have this genre flourishing anymore. Like the sci-fi, steampunk, whatever you want to call it, that's explored in this is so much more interesting. Like the Solar Surfer is like such a better execution of sci-fi and world design than like the fucking Star Wars Vespas they had in the Boba Fett series. Like it's just so much more creative. And they put a lot of thought into that. They were very intentional, not doing spacesuits, making, coming up with random world reasons why they could breathe in space, making it beautiful, making it romantic, and making it an adventure, sci-fi, whatever. At its core, it's an adventure movie, which I don't think we see a ton of. I enjoyed the rewatch. I don't. I don't know that I can like very firmly recommend this. Be like, hey, you're gonna watch this. You're gonna have a great time. It's like a good thing to have on in the background. It's beautiful to look at. I think I'm gonna land at. I'll say this might sound harsh, but a 3 out of 5.
Okay. Chaz, you want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll go. I can quote almost every line of this movie, and I didn't know I could do that. I think it's one of the best animated. Sorry, I think it is some of the best Disney animation. Beautiful designs, really cool technology, and for the first half, I think it's close to perfect. I think it's just tanked by a non-existent lead character. But love rewatching it, feel a lot of nostalgia for it, and maritime steampunk, want more of it. I would go 3.5 out of 5.
That's great.
Okay.
Alex, before you go, I do real quickly. You touched on you mentioned the technology behind this movie. So this movie is maybe one of the first to very prominently have 2D against like most of the world in the sets being 3D. It's a technology they called deep canvas. They started using it on Tarzan to do all the vines, and so it's basically the characters are 2D animated. And everything, the environment is 3D, so you can move it around. It's like you get 360 world view, and then they paint the layers of the background and stuff on it. But that's one of the reasons why this movie was so expensive, is because they sort of had to develop this technology and pay developers and animators to work all that. But yeah,
Interesting.
but so it's used throughout the whole movie. Anything on the ship, within the ship, it's all that 3D deep canvas, and the characters are the 2D piece of it.
Yeah.
Quick addendum to that. To date, it is the most expensive traditionally animated movie.
Wow.
Wow, because of that technology. That's crazy to think about. Good stuff. Good notes. Good notes. Okay. So for my closing thoughts, I think first and foremost, there should be 3 of these. I just think that their standard of what they use to make a remake, this checks all the boxes. You got all your characters still out there doing interesting things. What more could you ask for? This could have been an animated Pirates of the Caribbean, but in space. Like I think what we've undersold this whole time is how well the traditional maritime pirate really melds with this futuristic steampunk far, far away galaxy.
Totally.
Because like the concept of a pirate was you're out exploring the world, and it's the same concept on the cosmos, just on a much grander scale. So like all the elements are there. This really reminds me of, and I know it sounds goofy, but like it reminds me of watching The Goonies for the first time. We're gonna go find One-Eyed Willie's treasure. Like who doesn't want to go on a pirate treasure hunt?
It's One Piece.
We're gonna go find the One Piece, guys. Look, it captures the imagination and it appeals to such a sense of wonder. But then you take it not just on our little blue Earth, you expand it throughout the whole galaxy. There could have been a whole, like the way they pump out movies nowadays, there could have been 3 movies and 2 different TV shows based in this universe. It's a shame it never picked up the steam that it probably deserves, because it's a great film. It's a great story. Obviously, the story's over 100 years old. I think we accurately pointed out some of the movie's flaws, but those flaws, the movie is still a great ride in spite of those flaws. We're simply stating things that could probably get this from that 3 range up to that 4-5 range. With that being said, my rating is also a 3.5 out of 5. So we're all right in the same wheelhouse here. Really great movie, but there was some things that weighed it down a little, unfortunately.
Yeah. And, you know, our star rating system aside, I think it's such a
The
credit
system's
to
flawed. Go on.
the two directors, John Musker and Ron Clements, that in the pursuit of their magnum opus, their dream project, to get it done, they're like, fine, we'll just create 7 of the most universally loved, revered animated films of all time that are still the gold standard of what animation is.
Well said.
And so, while this may have been a disappointment at the box office, I can only hope it was. Sorry, John Musker and Ron Clements. I don't know if I mixed those up earlier, but I can only hope it was like incredibly rewarding to finally get to make this film. And knowing sort of that history of it makes me appreciate this film a little bit more.
Well, let's get into some Letterboxd reviews here. The first one, I don't necessarily like the rating, but the comment's funny. 2.5 stars. It says Jim's 2010's undercut haircut was a decade ahead of its time. I think that's pretty funny. And I genuinely think Jim could have inspired a lot of little boys to grow up and be like, that's how I'm going to cut my hair one day.
That's the biggest crime of him joining the Royal Maritime Academy or whatever at the end.
He
Is
had
he
to cut
ruins
it
his
off.
for a weird little bowl cut situation going
How
on.
cool is it, by the way, that he's got the total undercut shaved head and then a fully grown rat tail, full hair at the bottom?
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
It's
a little
amazing.
yeah, it's great.
Thank God. Okay, I took a screenshot of my my Letterboxd review, but I left my phone in another room. Just got it. I just making sure that it was synced up on my phone.
I like this one. 4 stars. The real treasure planet was the friends we made along the way, and that's what the movie is when you
Yeah.
really boil it down. And it's great for it.
It was the adventure that way. Yeah, yeah, it really was. So this is 5 stars. My love for this film is pure and undying. So it does look like there are people that obviously came out of this era really loving Treasure Planet. So that I'm glad to see that, and I wish I was one of them. I'm like disappointed in past me that I like watched this movie 1, 2, 3 times or whatever, and I wasn't just like, hell yeah, space pirates, I'm all in.
I feel like you guys found the best Letterboxd reviews for these. I had trouble finding any that were that funny.
No, I just scroll till I actually do it live on here. I don't even prepare them.
Oh, I love
this-
that.
This one says 4 stars. Wow, such creative concepts. Whoa, such strong character arts. Wowie, much morph. Woohoo, not much Ben. The not much Ben is what got me there. That's pretty funny.
I got 3 stars. They really thought they had something with the fart alien.
I think. How did you guys feel about Morph? Is that what it was called?
Morph?
The blue blubber thing?
I
Adorable.
loved morph.
Okay.
What you
Okay.
did?
I feel like
Okay.
Morph didn't really offend me that much, but I just I think I object to because they have the same little thing in Strange World, it's clearly
So?
for merch.
Yeah, sure.
What? Morph is crucial to
Morph
the
is probably more
whole
cute than-
emotional plot of the movie.
Okay.
I had a few Morph McDonald's toys. I loved them. I loved them.
I love Morph. Morph's so cute. If Morph was even half a size bigger, he would be the most powerful creature in the universe.
Fair enough. I think I don't take issue with Morph specifically. I take issue with the idea of needing to have a Morph in any
This
of
is
these
why
sci-fi Disney
Ben
movies.
felt out of place to me.
Sure.
Okay.
It's like we got 2 sidekicks. It's like Tangle. She's got the little chameleon
horse
and then
and
the
the-
horse.
I said the same thing last night. I completely agree. I think Ben, if you think he's obnoxious, it's because everything he's doing could have been done by Morph.
Morph is
I mean,
so cute, and
so
Ben
cute.
is so not.
Ben's cute. It's just a different kind of cute.
Yeah.
It's got a it's got a pretty good overall rating. I feel like it says 3.9 out of 5 stars overall.
Yeah.
So we
And I
we
think-
underrated it a little.
I think it was 69% on Rotten Tomatoes on the tomato meter.
Ooh.
So generally well
Rotten
received.
Tomatoes, I got a love-hate relationship with them. I don't understand
Yeah?
them, I feel like.
Yeah. But 69, it's certified fresh, so it's not rotten.
That's true.
Per
That's
the
good.
tomato meter.
That's good. That's good.
I think the Letterboxd is
Man,
pretty
Even
honest.
I'm looking at the box or like the photo trailer for it. Looks fucking amazing. There's a moon and clouds and a ship off in the distance, and he's hanging off the sails of the one ship. Just 10 out of 10. It's
We
like
used
a
to be a
nebula.
country.
Yeah, for real. Like, what the fuck? Okay.
Yeah.
But any last thoughts here? Evan, I got some crazy news. Evan
Okay.
and I, when we do
Shoot.
our news segment back and forth We are just reading a series of tweets that we have sent back and
From
forth to each other.
discussing films.
Yeah, from discussing films.
Great.
But I no longer have my Twitter, so if you've been, I
on
got
you.
off it. If you are sending me things, I have not been seeing them. But I don't have any news, embarrassingly to admit, is what I'm here to
well,
say.
I have a couple of things.
Yeah, please
one,
hit us.
I imagine as part of the Gladiator 2 press tour, Denzel Washington has sort of told his next couple films he's going to be involved in, which includes Black Panther 3. So these are the films before he retires. He's going to
Oh.
be part of Ryan Coogler's Black Panther 3, which
Oh, because
fucking
he's
badass.
directing Gladiator. I was very confused. I was like, how did we get here?
he's
How did...
in Gladiator.
But
Oh,
Ryan
yeah.
Coogler is yes. Right?
Ryan Coogler, no,
Oh, he's not
Ridley
directing Gladiator, the new one?
Ridley Scott is.
Oh, that makes way more sense.
Original
What?
director,
How
yeah.
does he know that he's got a role in Black Panther 3 then?
He's getting apparently Ryan Coogler's writing a role for him.
What does that have to do with Gladiator? Just they're connecting it to it because it's
he was
about
just
to come
talking about
out?
the film. No, he was just in his interviews. He's talking about
Oh.
the films he's going to make before he retires,
Okay.
which is wild to think about.
Huh.
He's close to retirement.
You think
I
he'll
don't
be a
know.
villain?
He could be a fun, complex villain. I think.
Yeah, I think he could do it.
What would you like to see him as?
Killmonger's grandpa. For those just listening, the eye roll that Chaz just let out when I said that.
Just so, let's just move on. We're just giving. Don't Disney with this bullshit. Oh, everybody's got to be somebody's grandson or uncle or their fucking
So
nephew.
true. That's so
God, just let me show me a new person. There's got to be
Yeah.
Black Panther's what, like a 50-year-old comic? There's got to be a villain in there somewhere. Denzel can play
That is so funny.
somewhere. Don't make Denzel Washington Killmonger's grandfather.
Denzel's gonna play a 2024 voter that's African American that voted for Trump.
Give out.
That's an interesting role for him.
That would be a very interesting role for him.
It's very complex. I'd be curious to see how that works.
Really get into the psyche and then tell us how you got there.
I bet
Except he
he
voted for Harrison Ford, is what you mean. Red Hulk. They
Yeah.
saw
Yes.
him, Red
Yes.
Hulk, on the front lawn, and they were like,
Yeah.
I still just like his policy. He tells it how it is. He gets mad. I get mad sometimes.
Oh, Thunder's gonna be cathartic if it's good.
Yeah. This one, so Disney put out a string of trailers for their more recent projects, but a tweet, I don't think there was even a source cited, but it was like someone familiar with the Star Wars productions was saying that Star Wars is obviously Star Wars is a property that's built on nostalgia, and they are running out of ways to create nostalgia in the franchise, which is like the current issue that it has. And so some other things that came from that report was like they treat the old films as the Old Testament, and the current mandate is to create the New Testament, and there's a lot of conflict on how to do that, and obviously that's evidenced by their output lately.
I just have actually like 5 days worth of thoughts on Star Wars specifically.
Please hit us.
How do you feel about what's your current outlook on Star Wars as it is?
Look, I am enough of a fan, and my take is always kind of more mythological on Star Wars. I try to
Okay.
watch them as like, okay, this is a modern day myth, and whatever we think of them doesn't matter because they exist, and
Yeah.
they are going to be watched forever in order as a
Disney
single
Plus
story.
is around.
Right, or physical media. So at least with 1 through 9, I have found a way to dramatically and dramaturgically solve some of the things I don't like about some of them, including the prequels,
Okay.
by finding the things that they connect to in each other and going, you know what, these are a single piece that people are going to experience forever. And in that, now the shows are a completely different thing entirely that I feel no loyalty or attachment to, and the good ones are great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This thing that you're talking about, Evan, is so frustrating as a fan because
Yeah.
there's so much you can do in this world. It doesn't have to be this way. And now there's
Yeah.
a corporate mandate to keep this thing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's the problem.
I think that's how a lot of people feel.
Yeah,
And
I think
that-
the
and that
corporate
frustration-
mandate is where the frustration comes from, because it feels like a burn and churn when we're like, "Oh, there's so much good, rich lore and history you could really be using and diving into that you're just like not."
Well, you are, and like, God, I have a lot of feelings about the Acolyte, but at least it was new. At least
I'm
it
right
was
there with ya.
interesting.
Yeah,
It was at least like some like.
it was
what is
not the
I-
best, but it was nowhere near their worst show at all.
No, and it was very Lucasy in a lot of ways, with like the grossness and the puppets and the sexiness. Like they were, yeah, that's my take on the
Sexiness,
Acolyte.
all right, I might tune in. I mean, not to make this
And/or
political.
It's got
I think
some
it's
Treasure
just.
Planet in it. Go on.
I think it's. The current state of Star Wars is a good reflection of the current state of the country, of what happens when you listen to the loudest voices in an algorithmic world where, I don't know. All right. Well, I appreciate
yeah.
you sharing your thoughts on the Star Wars franchise. We love nerding about stuff,
It's
no
what we do
matter
here.
what the topic of the episode is. So
We got opinions on everything, and
if you
honestly,
ever wanna
Star
take
Wars
us
is
on a tangent.
really close to Treasure Planet. We're pretty much on topic, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. It's Disney sci-fi.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no,
Disney's- It's a boy property.
it's a
It's a
boy
boy
property.
And we are, after all, three dudes watching
Three
cartoons.
dudes
Three dudes
watching
watch cartoons.
cartoons.
Yeah.
I think that's all I've got, though. Any more news? Anything else you wanted to cover, Evan?
Nah, that's it.
Chaz, thank you so much for coming here and talking about this with us. Do you want to the followers, to the listeners, do you want them to follow you anywhere? Where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. I don't really post on social media these days, but my handles are all at Chaz Cardigan. Chaz like an asshole, Cardigan like a sweater.
Perfect.
My favorite sign off of all time.
Yeah, make sure you follow Chaz. We appreciate you coming here. Like I said, we love talking about people who are passionate about these things. So it is always a joy having you here. The history, the lessons. This was just a ton of fun. I had a great time. So thank you again for coming by.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I loved getting to talk about this.
Yeah, Evan, you have anything else here before I sign us out?
No, what?
All right.
I'm all good.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go check out our backlog. We have a ton of other things that I'm sure you will enjoy. Check it out on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube as well. Please follow us at Two Dudes Watch Cartoons on both Instagram and TikTok. And make sure you rate and review or leave a like wherever you're listening. Always helps new people find the podcast. And once again, just as always, thanks for joining us here on this adventure to Treasure Planet.
Yeah. That'll do it for this episode of Two Dudes Watch Cartoons. We will catch you next time.
Two dudes watch cartoons.